Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Congrats, I got you in, baby.
This is entertainment. People pay to watch this.
Pass to a cutting Hiltz. He darts in.
Whoa! People actually subscribe.
All across central New York.
Time expired! Syracuse has done it!
It's Drive Time with your host, Tim Leonard.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting wild. Hey!
We welcome you into Drive Time on a Tuesday of a shortened SU football game week. Friday game this week. Welcome you in. Colgate coming into the Dome. Should be an easy win for the Cuse. We thought it might be an easy win last week. It went down to the wire, and Syracuse got it done in the end against UConn. Still reacting to that wild game. Wild come-from-behind win. Another come-from-behind win in the Fran Brown era. Took overtime, but the Orange are 1-1 on the football season. We'll get into some basketball today on the show. Orange men's basketball schedule has been fully dropped. We knew the ACC opponents. We now know the dates for said opponents. So we'll map out what are the big takeaways from the ACC schedule. Is it good for Syracuse? What is the tough stretch in the schedule? How does it begin? Remember, a little bit of a twist to the ACC men's basketball schedule this year. 2 less games, so there's more time to, in theory, bolster your resume and play some better teams in the non-con, as ACC basketball looks to get back to sending maybe 7, 8, 9 teams to the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Just 5 last year. The Orange looking to get back to the tournament, of course, and a lot on the line for basketball this season. So excited to get into the schedule in a little bit. We welcome your phone calls, as always, here on Drive Time, our new show, 5 to 6 every weeknight. So keep us in mind if you're driving home from work, if you're dealing with the new traffic around Syracuse because of construction season and all the mess that is I-81 right now. If you're spending a little bit more time in the car on your commute back from the office, you can keep us in mind going forward. ESPN Radio Syracuse, ESPN Radio Utica Rome, and also you can watch the show in its entirety without breaks on QSportsTalk.com. That is our Twitch stream. You can also watch us on our YouTube simulcast. No breaks over there as well. You can chat away. We're always answering your questions live in the chat during our radio breaks and throughout the show. But phone lines open at 315-437-7644. That is 4 ESPN 44. If you have thoughts on Orange football, Orange basketball, NFL, college football at large, whatever you want to talk about today, you can jump on the program and we will chat away with you at 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call. But we begin the show today, as we will on every Tuesday going forward, with our Top 5 Tuesday.
Open up the notebook and let's rank something.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
It's a Top 5 Tuesday.
All right, so we were ranking things earlier today on Orange Nation. You can always catch that 12 to 2. And me, Steve Pauly, we're talking about the ranking of the position groups right now for Syracuse football, which is a tough exercise to do considering it's really a pretty balanced team. It's a young team for the most part across the board. But we concluded our top 10 and all the position groups, how we rank them. Started out just trying to rank our top 5 position groups, but then we kind of got excited and kept on ranking all of the position groups. We put that list out on Q Sports Talk on our social pages earlier today. So now I want to carry on with some more rankings and nail down on the top 5 players for Syracuse football right now after 2 weeks of the season, which admittedly we still don't exactly know who the best players are entirely because it's a bit of a small sample size and it's a young team and we're projecting quite a bit. But it's a fun exercise because kind of like the position groups, this isn't a year where there are clear-cut 1, 2, 3, or you feel like you have an obvious guy that is going to make every single person's top 5. So if you have thoughts on a top 5 list right now of Syracuse football players, I remember I did this in the summer, and I'm sure my list looks very different than how it did in the summer after just 2 games because we're all kind of guessing and trying to project this young roster going forward. But if you have thoughts, drop them in the chat, or we welcome your phone calls as well at 315-437-7644. So let's get into it. Our top 5 Syracuse football players right now.
Number 5.
Justice Ross Simmons is number 5 after the huge game in the huge fourth quarter against UConn. 2 touchdowns late. And I think the more we've seen of Justice Ross Simmons, the more we have come to realize why pretty much everyone in the country wanted him when he was a transfer from Colorado State ahead of year 1 of the Fran Brown era, now a couple off seasons ago. He is a guy that was not healthy last year, but even playing at what Fran called 60%, he still had some breakout games. He's a veteran dude. And it seems like when you talk to guys in the locker room or coming off practice, they're always raving about how Justice Ross Simmons looks in practice. It seems like that catch that he made on the big touchdown reception in overtime, which was a heck of a grab in the corner of the end zone on a nice place ball from Steve Angeli, seems like that's the type of catch that he kind of makes all the time in practice, and it's maybe a little bit more surprising to us than it is to actual players and coaches that are inside the walls and see Justice Ross Simmons every day. So I love the way Fran talks about him. He says that he's still kind of scratching the surface. He's still trying to get back to about what he was when he was 100% and a big part of Colorado State's offense and a high upside wide receiver. This is a guy that a lot of big-time schools wanted, and we're seeing why, because he did play very, very well in that fourth quarter and obviously made some key plays down the stretch against UConn.
Number 4.
Number 4 on our top 5 Syracuse football players right now. A tough list to crack, a tough list to rank. I have bumped David Reese to number 4 on this list. Another high-profile transfer in, except it was this season. We know the story with David Reese. He's been in college football seemingly forever. His 8th year of eligibility. He's, I think, 9 years older than Demetrius Samuel Jr., who's on the same roster as him. He has been around the block. He's dealt with injuries. 2.5 years he's missed due to injury. He also had a COVID year, so that's why he is still playing college football. Transfer in from Cal that put up some solid production at Cal last year. And again, like Justice Ross Simmons, I thought his fourth quarter against UConn was his best moment so far in an orange uniform, and we kind of finally saw the defensive line get it together in that game against UConn down the stretch, and we saw a guy that could potentially draw a double team down the road. Syracuse needs someone to step up as a pass rusher, and David Reese, I think, is our best bet at the guy who will be doing that. So he is number 4 on our top 5 Syracuse football players right now.
Number 3.
We have Jonte Cook at number 3, our second wide receiver already. It's kind of hard to rank Jonte Cook right now because he has not been 100% to this point. He has not been healthy. He did not finish the Tennessee game, seemed to be dealing with something, maybe a leg injury. Fran Brown said his body tightened up on him. We didn't even know if he was going to play against UConn. Seemed like he was a game-time decision. Did not seem to be playing his normal amount against UConn. I was kind of calling for him to have a breakout game against UConn just because I feel like he is the most talented guy on this Syracuse roster right now. And we know he was a former 5-star. And all the things about him since he's gotten to Cuse have been good in terms of how much he's matured off the field and how much Fran has helped him get some structure in his life. So my expectations for Jonte Cook going into the season were very high. I still maintain that he is the most talented player on the roster. It's just hard to rank him much higher than 3 right now because we haven't seen it on the field yet. And I'm beginning to get a little bit worried that this might be kind of a nagging injury. It seems like he made a big catch on that 2-minute drill drive before the end of regulation against UConn. And it seemed like he almost needed to come off the field and was kind of doing the thing where you're like tapping your helmet and saying, all right, now the injury's flaring up again. And you could tell Fran ran right down the sideline as quickly as I've seen Fran run on the sideline, which he does it a lot during the game. He's active on the sideline, but he was sprinting towards Jonte Cook as if to say, no, don't come out. We need you right now. Almost like, I don't care how much it hurts. You're a guy that we need right now in the final minute and a half of this game because he is the most talented player on this roster. So I don't know what you make of that. Maybe that's Fran saying, I don't care how much the injury bothers you. We got to get it through your head that it's not going to be that much of a deal breaker and we can rehab it next week and we can get you ready week in and week out and we've got a good training staff. That's been a little bit concerning just how he hasn't been at 100% so far. Wondering if we'll even see Jonte Cook against Colgate. If it is kind of a nagging injury, maybe you just sit him out. I mean, I think that's going to be the case with a guy like Devin Grant as well. But I still do believe that he's the most talented player on the roster. And if he gets 100% healthy, he could finish the year with us talking about him as the best player on this roster.
Number 2.
So we've had Justice Ross Simmons 5, David Reese 4, Jonte Cook 3. We've had 2 wide receivers and an edge rusher so far on our top 5 Syracuse football players right now. Number 2, we're going to go with a guy who did miss the last game due to injury, unfortunately, and that is Devin Grant. I still think he is the best overall defensive player on the Orange roster. He is a guy that is a veteran on a team that is young, and I will say this about Devin Grant. He has 2 characteristics, really, that the defense is lacking. He has veteran experience, for one. He's been around the block. And for 2, he has made big-time plays, turnover impact plays. The defense has not really been able to get turnovers as much as you would like in the last year and 2 games since the Fran Brown era has started. They were all right last year. They didn't force a ton of turnovers. It was 16 total turnovers last year, so about middle of the pack in the country. They've only had 1 turnover through the first 2 weeks, and that was just a fumble that they scooped up that was kind of right in their lap. So you'd like to see the defense, especially this week against Colgate. If you can't turn over Colgate, then you're not going to have much success against Clemson and the opponents that are coming down the pike. You'd like to see the defense create some more turnovers, and Devin Grant is the guy that has made some big plays defensively and is a veteran and a leader, and hopefully he can get healthy. And that kind of summarizes maybe why they struggle with UConn quite a bit is the second best player on your team, at least according to me, Devin Grant, was not available. The third best player on your team, Jonte Cook, was dealing with that injury, clearly not 100% and hasn't been 100% throughout the first 2 weeks of the season.
Number 1.
So that leaves number 1, and you can drop your comments in the chat on who you would rank right now as the top player on the Syracuse football roster. I think if I polled 100 Syracuse fans right now, we might get 20 to 30 different answers. You can make a case that someone I'm leaving off this list is number 1. It's a tough thing to do this year, but I would not have said this before the season. Right now, if you had to give me to get an answer on this, if you had to pin me down, I think the best player on the Syracuse roster right now is the running back, Yasin Willis, as just a sophomore. To me, he looked the part against Tennessee, and I know he didn't run the ball a ton against UConn, and that was unfortunate that Syracuse couldn't create running lanes as much as we would have expected against UConn. But watching him against Tennessee, my realization there and what sort of hit me watching him in week 1 was they're going to have to pay this guy a lot and make sure that they take care of him in order for him to come back next year, because he is very advanced for being just a sophomore running back, first-year starter. It seems like he's matured a good bit in the offseason. I think he's going to be more of a focal point at the running back position than what we saw last year with LaQuinn Allen. I say that coming off 44 rushing yards, unfortunately, against UConn, and that certainly maybe tempers your expectations about how effective Syracuse will be running the football. But I think right now, if you had to pick top player on the Syracuse roster, is Yasin Willis. And the encouraging thing about that is he's only a sophomore. And some of the guys that I just mentioned on this list, it's a lot of veteran guys. But you could make a case for even like an Antoine Delorier or Demetrius Samuel as true freshmen to have consideration. I mean, some of the guys that I think fall into the honorable mention category, Chris Peel, who's a young guy. I've really liked the way he has played so far. Dan Villari, obviously he's out of eligibility, but Villari has been one of their leading receivers, and he's got to be up there in terms of tight end production across the country to this point in the season, the young season. And then Jack Stonehouse. Punters are people too, and I know he's not flashy, but he's got as good a chance of anyone to be on the All-ACC team as it stands right now. So those are my top 5 players right now for Syracuse football. We can hash it out in the chat, what I got wrong, what I got right. You can call in and give me your thoughts on who you would say is the best player on the Syracuse roster right now and your thoughts on my list. That's 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call. We'll take our first time out on Drive Time here on ESPN Radio and QSportsTalk.com.
Burdick Toyota, Burdick Lexus.
Let me catch up on the chat. What we got? San Diego Cuse, you're not putting Jonte top 5? That was just pure talent. I'm projecting a little bit there. I mean, I haven't thought about updating it weekly, Lax Man, but it's kind of a fun thing to pop in on every once in a while. JRS, I don't know if I would have put him top 5, but after that game, I felt like I had to include him. Yeah, Villari was probably number 6. Tough one to leave off the way he's been playing. Deuce, I think, is also in consideration. I just felt like Devin Grant is a little bit more reliable than Deuce. You got Stonehouse in there, Laxman. Yeah, he does have to improve. The whole team has to improve at the running back position, pass protection wise. Appreciate you, Hudson Wrestler. Fresh polo just for you today. Reese, Peel, Deuce, Willis, Villari. You're on Villari 1. See what I'm saying? It's like even a guy that other people would have number 1, I didn't even have top 5. I get that, though. I mean, Villari also is, as we know, very versatile. Daryl Gill's another guy. I mean, it felt like a lot of the preseason chatter had Daryl Gill in the top 5 when we did this. And he even gives you a nice boost on special teams as well with some of the stuff he's been doing as a gunner. Had the big hit this week. I don't know about Travion Mack, but yeah, it's not good when you see someone on a scooter. I wouldn't expect, obviously, they're going to rush him back against Colgate, so Clemson becomes the next one that we're wondering about, and might be a little early if you're on a scooter. Oh no, pool season's over? Oh, man. That's tough, Dom. But you're definitely coming up for UNC. That's the game. It'll be a good one. Yeah, Cook's the most talented. What list? Oh, most talented list? Is that what you're asking, Super Cat? Cook, I kind of agree with San Diego Cuse. I mean, Love it, Ryan. Delta Sonic, I think when Cuse wins, you get a deal on Delta Sonic Car Wash, so you can drop that on him next time if you didn't this time. Yeah, I am kind of worried about Cook's injury. Not good when one of your best players is a little banged up. Yeah, I mean, I think that 5-star goalie is... everything I've read about him and heard about him is he's kind of a freak. Like, really tall, really athletic, so maybe kind of like the Will Mark style, but people are saying he's the real deal. They don't have anyone else in 2027, but that's a good start. Top performers, I think you'd have to put Villari in there. I guess not a totally different list, but I would include Villari for sure. Maybe Daryl Gill.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
Welcome back into Drive Time here with Tim Leonard, 5 to 6 p.m. weeknights. Going forward, talking SU football, SU basketball, sneaking in some lacrosse in the Q Sports Talk Twitch break, chatting about the new 5-star goalie, big addition for Gary Gate and company yesterday. Lacrosse has got a big season coming up. Felt like the other day during the football game, maybe halftime, maybe third quarter, I saw a couple of our favorite tweets around here. Is it basketball season yet? It had been a while since I had seen those tweets. We've been talking more football than basketball around these parts in the offseason and in the summer. It's been weird, but we do have some basketball news to get to, as the ACC has officially dropped the schedule. We knew the opponents. Now we know the order. Now we know the dates. Now we know everything there is to know about the Syracuse men's basketball schedule. I guess with the exception of the fact that 7 of these games could be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. 7 of these midweek games are like floating, which I can't remember that ever happening, especially that high a volume. So that's the only thing that's still up in the air about the schedule. But we know, for example, like Clemson is going to be the first ACC game. It just might be on December 30th or December 31st is one example. The Tuesday, Wednesday games, they're still leaving it open for some flexibility. I'm not sure when we'll get clarification on that or why that is the case. But if you missed it, the SU men's basketball schedule is here. Remember, 18 games this year as opposed to 20. Syracuse is playing 2 opponents twice. They're going to play Pittsburgh every single year 2 times. Pittsburgh is their traditional rival, as they're classifying it, so they will play them twice. The other opponent is going to rotate, and it's actually UNC this year, which is a pretty tough draw on one hand, although the good news is it's UNC on a Saturday at home late in the season. February 21st is the date that the Tar Heels are coming to the Dome. So that is going to be the biggest home game from an attendance standpoint, at least on paper right now. Saturday, February 21st, they are hosting UNC. Not a ton of great home games in terms of brand names. They're playing a lot of the brand names on the road. They also play UNC on the road. Of course, Duke is the game that everyone wants to know. Is that home? Is that away? When are the dates for that? They are at Duke this year, not playing them at home. They're at Louisville as well. That's late in the season. But the biggest takeaway from this schedule, and this has happened, I feel like, recently with the SU men's basketball schedule, at least in conference play and the order of it. This is a very soft start to the schedule for Syracuse. They really should have an easy landing here and an opportunity to stack up some wins in conference play. Of course, it's tough to project. It's the transfer portal era. We don't really know how good these teams are right now. But one site that has projected every single roster based on personnel, based on what's returning and analytics and all that is Bart Torvik. And Bart Torvik right now has Syracuse in the mid-60s in terms of ranking every single team across college basketball. I believe there's 65 currently on the preseason rankings per the Bart Torvik website. Syracuse starts their schedule playing 7 teams that, in theory, if you're just going off of what Bart Torvik says right now in their simulations, they could be favored in all 7 of these games to begin ACC play. The start of the schedule is Clemson at home. Now, Clemson is one of 2 teams in the first 7 games for SU men's basketball in conference play. They are one of 2 teams that are ranked slightly higher than Syracuse, according to Bart Torvik right now. Clemson is 52nd on the Bart Torvik rankings. Then they go to Georgia Tech. That'll be a homecoming game for 2 Syracuse players, Nate George, Ibrahim Suare, who are 2 guys that have transferred from Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets still kind of building under Damon Stoudemire. They're projected 86 on Bart Torvik, so behind Syracuse, but it's a road game. Then they go to Pittsburgh, first of 2 meetings against Pittsburgh. After that, Florida State at home. Remember, Florida State has been down recently. They expect to be behind Syracuse in the rankings again. Boston College on the road. They are 104 on the Bart Torvik rankings. That's the lowest among anyone in the ACC. By the way, the only team Syracuse is not playing in conference play is Stanford. So they're not playing Stanford. You're going to not play one team every year, play 2 teams twice. It'll be Pittsburgh and someone else. They do not have to go out west, of course, this year. A lot less travel. Don't have to go to SMU. They're coming to the Dome. But sticking with the theme of how this schedule starts out very easy for the Orange, you've got Clemson at Georgia Tech, at Pittsburgh, Florida State at home, at Boston College, Virginia Tech at home, Miami at home. Those are all very winnable games. Miami at 55 on the Bart Torvik rankings, Clemson at 52 are the toughest opponents you play in the first 7 games of ACC play, and both of those games are at home. Miami at home, Clemson at home. Your road games, Georgia Tech, Pitt, and Boston College, are all teams that probably will not make the NCAA tournament if we were trying to make an estimation right now. So, of course, the schedule gets tougher from there. To kind of summarize the rankings and what we've deduced or what we can deduce from how the schedule starts and how it ends, if you average up the first 7 games and their Bart Torvik rankings for the opponents for Syracuse, first 7 games, the average ranking is 76. Again, Bart Torvik ranks every single team in the country. So 76 means you're not an NCAA tournament team. On average, they are playing more teams that probably will not make the tournament than will in their first 7 games. And we laid out that the 2 games that are against teams that are better than Syracuse on these metrics are actually at home. So that's why you can make a case they could be favored in their first 7 games. And what this tells us is they better get some wins. They better be ready to go around New Year's Eve when the calendar flips and it's ACC play, because we know the non-conference schedule is kind of a mixed bag of some really easy games that should, in theory, inflate your net ranking or do a better job of inflating your net ranking than previous Orange teams have. And then they've got some really tough games as well when they go to that Vegas tournament. So I almost feel like coming out of the non-con, we can almost guess right now, maybe the Tennessee game is a little bit more up in the air than I'm giving it credit for, just because that's a home game and Tennessee won't be quite as good on paper, at least, as they were last year. But Tennessee was a whole lot better than Syracuse last year. So even if Syracuse has improved and Tennessee has taken a step back, Tennessee's still going to be favored in that game. And I know it's at the Dome this time around. I know they'll have J.J. Starling, in theory, who missed that game. That was the first game he missed. But that game was ugly. And we've seen them stack up against Tennessee, and it hasn't been great. in the last handful of years. So they're playing some teams that have better personnel than them for sure in Tennessee, Houston, and Kansas. And I feel like we're going to come out of the non-conference and we're still going to be kind of shrugging at just how good this team is and just exactly where they stand in terms of the bubble and the NCAA tournament. So the start of the ACC schedule being nice and generous is very good, I would say, for this team that has just 2 returning players and is looking to get on the right side of the bubble. They haven't really been even inside bracketology at any point under Red Autry, and for that matter, in a while. So it would just be nice if you could start out ACC play, maybe you go 5-2. 6-1 would be great in that stretch. 7-0 is not off the table. I think this team is talented. I think on paper they match up with all of these teams in the first 7 games that you really should be able to bank some wins here to start out. So I mentioned the average ranking on Bart Torvik of the first 7 opponents. You average it out, it's a 76 ranking. Well, the last 11 games, the average ranking is a 43. So that just sort of summarizes at least what we know right now, and these are all projections, but it's just basically obvious when you look at it. At Louisville at the end of the year, at Duke in February, UNC at home, UNC on the road, at Virginia. Your toughest games are backloaded. The 8th game of the schedule is going to be a very big game at NC State. NC State's going to be good. They actually did a very nice job in the transfer portal. Will Wade, their new head coach. Right now, NC State projected on Bart Torvik as 39. So Syracuse projects as a middle-of-the-pack ACC team. According to Bart Torvik, their schedule is very easy to start, and then it gets tougher, and there are some very challenging road games on this schedule. At UNC, at Virginia, at Duke, at Louisville. Those are your 4 biggest brands maybe in the conference, and some of the toughest places to play in the conference and in the country for that matter. But I do feel like this is a more generous schedule than what Syracuse had last year, considering the travel. They have a better team, a much more talented team than last year. And I know this is all just talking season right now, and we'll see once they actually put the balls down how this team lines up. But man, the start of this schedule, I like the way that it looks for Syracuse, at least the start of the ACC schedule. And honestly, if Syracuse is going to make the NCAA tournament next year, they probably need to be inside the bubble at the start of February, based on what I'm seeing on this schedule. Unless things drastically change on our opinion of some of these teams, they need to take advantage of this soft start to the schedule. So the full men's basketball schedule is now out. You can, of course, find it, Cuse.com, all those places, and give your thoughts on the schedule. If you had a different takeaway, we welcome your phone calls here on Drive Time. 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call. Other notes on the schedule: they have 2 big Monday games, but they are both on the road down in Tobacco Road Country. At UNC on February 2nd and at Duke on February 16th will be big Monday games for Syracuse. Not a lot of Saturday home games. That's a disappointing part about this schedule from an attendance standpoint. They have a long break in January where they don't play many Saturday home games. Couple games of note: Chris Bell will be back in the Dome on either February 10th or 11th as one of those midweek dates. We don't know exactly if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. 2 road games. We mentioned Georgia Tech because of Nate George and Ibrahim Suarez. They'll be getting a homecoming January 6th or the 7th. And then NC State on the road. Remember, they have Q as their point guard. Quadir Copeland is the point guard, was at McNeese State with Will Wade. Now he's at NC State. And that is January 27th or the 28th. That's going to be a big game at NC State in Raleigh, going up against our old friend Quadir Copeland. So we'll hit a timeout. Those are my thoughts on the SU men's basketball schedule, now fully released. And if you have different thoughts, call in right now. We can work you in out of this timeout. 315-437-7644. We're back after this to talk ACC football. After talking some ACC hoops, I'm going to run down my ACC football power rankings to the first 2 weeks as we return here on Drive Time, QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Radio.
The Rich Eisen Show.
Elijah Hughes was a big transfer. See Red 22. Yeah, Sister Jean's still doing it. What is she now? She's like 106 or something, right? Yeah, they're 9th in the Bart Torvik, right? Super Cat. Middle of the pack, exactly. Yeah, and Jelly's numbers look good, Super Cat. I thought 2K was bailing on that, Tronic. What did I see the other day? That college basketball game's not happening now, or? Oh no, I guess you're right. Maybe I was seeing like EA was doing it. 4 days ago, 2K confirms College Hoops video game is in the works. That'd be awesome. I don't see why if you have college football, with NIL, you might as well bring it back for hoops too. I'd probably be more inclined to play that than the football game, honestly. Yeah, they said big plans for 2027 and beyond. We're working on a college basketball experience that will feature more than 100 programs from across the country, from powerhouses to Cinderella stories. Even a few surprises coming early in 2026. NIL tournaments this year, Phil. That's the Vegas tournament. Everyone's getting some dough for playing in that, which is good. I mean, you can find yourselves in those tournaments, might as well. Get the Lemoyne Dolphins on the video game. If they're only doing 100 teams, that would be dipping into quite the Cinderella story. Okay, that's what I was mixing it up, Lex, man. Yeah, that Players Era tournament, that's another date we don't know. That third game could be either, whatever it is, Tuesday or Wednesday, I think, of that week. We don't know who they're playing either, but you kind of hope that's a decent team. You need to pick up some good non-con wins when you're in the ACC. That's the only fear I have with the schedule. You got Tennessee, Houston, Kansas. Those are going to be tough games to win. Hopefully you show pretty well in those games, or at least better than you have. And then, I like the neutral site, St. Joe's, and then the neutral or at Drexel. Those are games that are going to help your net, but still going to go out and win them. So it's important to still get some power conference wins in the non-con, and they might not get any based on how it's laid out. Rolling along on Drive Time. New show 5 to 6 weeknights. Getting you ready for the Orange football game against Colgate on Friday. after the Wild home opener, still reflecting on all of that took place back on Saturday. Bills game was crazy as well. I can't really recall a weekend where the Bills and Syracuse football both had games that kind of mirrored each other, just crazy comebacks. Each of those teams were down to a 1% chance, according to the win probability charts at one point throughout the game, and they got it done. Another wild comeback in the Monday night game last night, where J.J. McCarthy did the Steve Angeli of looking completely lost through the first half or three quarters and then turned into a superhuman, it felt like, in the final stretch of that game. And it was wild to see how the Bears went from looking so good to not looking good at all. And Caleb Williams, after a terrific first half, struggled. So that's NFL. If you have thoughts on any of that, you can call in right now. We'll work in at 315-437-7644. I do want to get to my ACC power rankings right now, though. After 2 weeks, I have tiered everyone in the way too coastal and way too all over the place ACC with way too many teams. Tier 1 is college football playoff teams right now in the league. We've got three of them. Miami and Florida State, I think you have to rank 1 and 2 in the conference. And I would put Miami as a slight edge right now. Miami will have a very, very big game against South Florida. Such a big game, it's on the CW this weekend. That's the biggest game on the CW probably ever. Two ranked teams now after South Florida had the upset over Florida. Florida State, I'm seeing some Tommy Castellanos Heisman hype. That is something I did not think I would see in our year of 2025, but Castellanos threw like 8,000 80-yard touchdown passes this past week when they scored about 8,000 points against some team I'm forgetting who is an absolute nobody. More importantly, he lived up to his word against Alabama when he was talking the talk. He walked the walk a little bit and had a nice running game, and Florida State's off to a good start. They bagged about as good a win as anyone has in ACC play so far. The third team that is in the college football playoff team tier is still Clemson because their schedule is pretty easy, and despite them looking terrible against Troy, which was really puzzling, they seem to really miss Antonio Williams right now, their top wide receiver. They haven't had much of a pass rush to this point, even though they have a great defensive line on paper. Kate Klubnik has looked shaky. They've got a big game on the road at Georgia Tech this week. And if they lose that, they're definitely not looking like a college football playoff team right now. But I'm still putting them in there because I think they'll figure it out. Of course, Syracuse plays them in 2 weeks' time down in Death Valley. Tier 2, I have labeled good, just not sure how good, because some of these teams have not really played anyone yet. Louisville, I would put at the top of Tier 2. I've been pretty high on them. There's nothing really to dissuade me from that. They also really haven't played anyone. They were kind of locked in more of a game with James Madison than I would have guessed back on Friday night. James Madison now has Matthew Sluka as one of their two quarterbacks. Remember that guy from UNLV and the NIL fallout and all that. So Louisville won that game 28-14 after a slow start. I think they still have some great weapons on offense. They're still worth considering as a Tier 2 team. Pittsburgh has not played anyone, but we'll throw them in Tier 2 because I like them going into the year. I think they're going to win a lot of games just because their schedule is pretty favorable. Georgia Tech also has a Tier 2 team. They've got that big game against Clemson. That'll be interesting. Georgia Tech's offensive line is graded remarkably well. We know Brent Key's proud of that as an offensive line guy. Haynes King was banged up, did not play in the last game. Looks like he's all good for Clemson. They just rolled past a cupcake this week, but they have a pretty solid win to this point with that Colorado win in week 1, about as good a win as anyone here in this Tier 2. And the last team in Tier 2 still hanging on for me is SMU. Disappointing for the ACC that SMU couldn't get a home win over Baylor out of the Big 12. That would have been a nice win for the conference. They had that game in hand. Very high scoring, double overtime loss, 48-45. Now we get to Tier 3, which I have coined the mediocre middle. And this is where we find Syracuse right now. Hard to rank these teams or order them, but I have so far in the first two tiers named 7 teams. Syracuse, to me, is somewhere in the 8, 9, 10, 11 range right now. Joining them in the mediocre middle, we've got NC State. I think C.J. Bailey is underrated. He played very well in their nice win over Virginia, 35-31. That was somehow a non-conference game, which is more proof that the ACC has too many teams and college sports is crazy at this point. But the thing with NC State, their schedule very backloaded. I think they're going to be like Pittsburgh of last year. They're going to maybe start out undefeated through 6-7 weeks, and we won't really know how good they are. Still kind of concerning their defense isn't getting as many stops as we're used to under Dave Doran. I would put Duke in this middle tier as well. I thought they were going to play Illinois better. They looked kind of lost in the second half. Duke, remember, is that big game coming up in 3 weeks' time at home for the Orange. That'll be a big swing game. Boston College, talk about a weird BC game. I think it was 1 overtime, 2 overtimes, whatever it was, primetime game against Michigan State where they just couldn't get any stops, but were scoring a ton. BC is at Stanford this week. They are right now in my rankings 11th in my ACC power rankings, and that is the worst team Syracuse plays in their ACC schedule. Now we get into teams that I don't even really care to rank because Syracuse doesn't play them. Like Cal, I mean, I would say tier 4 right now. I labeled this fun quarterbacks better than expected, but I don't even really care. Cal and Virginia are the 2 teams in my tier 4. We never really play them, so why would I really focus on that? But Virginia's Chandler Morris has gotten off to a good start. Cal's quarterback, the true freshman's really fun to watch. They just haven't really played anyone, so hard to get too excited about them. We drop down to tier 5, worse than expected, and that's UNC's Bill Belichick team. They've got Richmond this week. They did get their first win over Charlotte, 20-3, but Charlotte is truly one of the worst teams in college football, so you can't get too excited about that. Virginia Tech is also in tier 5. Virginia Tech's 0-2. They've lost to 2 solid SEC teams, but they were home favorites against Vandy, and they pretty much got worked in that game. And I just don't see a world right now where Brent Pry is not fired by the end of the season, based on how it's going at Virginia Tech. I still think they're a little bit better than some of the teams I've named to this point. They played a tough schedule. You got to give them some credit for that. But it's just not going well down in Hokie land right now. In tier 6, our final tier is 2 teams. I have labeled this tier no talent, and that is Wake Forest and Stanford. They are honestly worse than UConn, who Syracuse just squeaked by. The one thing I have to say about Stanford is they threw a screen pass in their own end zone against BYU, and it was a safety. And it was truly one of the dumbest plays I've seen in college football in a while. So those are my ACC power rankings. Last time out on the show, we can work in a phone call after this break if you'd like. 315-437-7644. We're back after this on Drive Time.
Friday, the Orange.
Appreciate you liking the bump, Super Cat. Hudson J.J. McCarthy's the best player of all time. Oh, what's up, Jordan? Good. A little high five action. Look at you repping Labatt.
I had a line and Kugel hat on earlier.
Oh, wow. Should we tell our fine people in the chat about the Labatt watch party coming up?
Should we?
Pretty big deal.
I don't know. Should we?
Live at Shaughnessy's for the Clemson game.
Is that official?
It's as official as it'll ever be, probably.
Sure hope so. Right?
Gio will be out there for his pregame show, watch party.
So how about this? Yeah. As always, go out to Shaughnessy's before the football games, home games.
Yeah, of course.
But you might get a chance for this Clemson game to go out, hang out with Gio. And a little birdie told me that the master of the reverse jinx, there's a chance he might be there during the game.
Master of the reverse jinx.
Did you already say Mike McAllister?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, well, now you've said it, so wouldn't.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Who comes on Monday every Monday on Orange Nation? Yeah. Yeah, watch party for Clemson is the plan at Shaughnessy's. So
and some other ones. Nice.
Yeah.
We love a championship bout.
There we go.
Who's gonna win that title? Do you mind if I open my sound quick?
No.
So I can have it.
Yeah, listen to Jordan right after me. Yankees on deck,
You
6
don't
to
have
7.
to. You can if you want. You can if you want.
No, I'm making you. You should.
Okay, thank you. Hello, John.
Well, hello there, Jordan.
Well, hello, John.
Isaac Brown is very good. Louisville's got some weapons. Yeah, that would be nice although we don't want an angry Clemson, San Diego Cuse, but yeah, beat them up and give them a tough game.
I was wondering what you thought.
It's nice. Cuse gets one extra day of prep for that Clemson game.
Oh, I butchered that.
Well, hello.
I accidentally typed out the number 1. So now.
Yeah, you blew it.
I'm gonna mess this up somehow.
Don't forget to drag these. I do it every time.
Huh?
Like, they always,
zoom all the way out.
yeah.
It's so dumb.
I don't know what, it's been happening more than normal lately, but.
Watch party at. Wow. Attaboy, San Diego Cuse.
Wow. Jordan's not
Sorry,
on Twitch, but.
I've pushed for Yankees on Deck to be on Twitch, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't been approved.
I guess it's not really Q Sports Talk, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can still listen to him, and you should listen to him. Big series for the Yanks.
Yeah, I love the Yankees. Yeah.
Yankees are actually playing some good baseball.
Especially when they're on deck.
Yeah, it's even better.
I love them. I love them the most when they're on deck.
Yes.
No, it is. It's very, very interesting. Like
breakfast burritos and the black stuff. That sounds good.
Ooh.
9. I might be going to Kev's instead of the Labatt watch party. Although I'll be down in Clemson anyway.
I feel like the numbers, the AL East was always attainable, but I call BS on anybody who actually believed the Yankees were going to be competitive.
Yeah.
In the division. Like, I
it was looking bad for a little bit.
Like, what's impressive is, like, yeah, they beat up on those bad teams, but they used that momentum to win 2 series against really good teams. So,
true.
Good on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think their bullpen's pretty shaky. They're home run dependent, but, I mean, shoot, I don't know if there's many American League teams you like better than them right now.
Yeah.
So, we will see.
I guess maybe tonight we'll finally be able to answer the question, like, Yankees, Tigers, who do you actually trust?
Yeah, because those are the top 2 teams right now, I'd say, American League. Yeah.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Final segment of the show tonight on Drive Time with Tim Leonard, 5 to 6 every weeknight. YouTube simulcast, Q Sports Talk, Twitch stream as well. Podcast will be going out on your ESPN Syracuse Utica Rome podcast feed. You can find it wherever you get podcasts. Whenever you talk about a podcast, you have to say that. If you are in sports broadcasting, sports podcasting, you have to say you can find it wherever you get your podcast, or else I don't think you've actually talked about teasing the podcast. As we wrap up the show today, we can work in a phone call if you call right now, 315-437-7644. I got to looking today at kind of how some of the Syracuse guys are doing that left the program. Some of the transfer portal exits through 2 weeks. So I'll run you down a full list of some of these names. And some of these names, I think once you hear them, you're going to be like, oh, that guy, I forgot about him. Oh, he's at that school? I didn't even know that. That's just what happens with college football now. The headline name is Trevor Pena, who is now at Penn State. 2 games into his career, he has over 100 yards receiving so far. Pretty solid start. He is second on the team in receiving yards for Penn State. They have played literally no one. He had 2 catches for 32 yards this past week, 7 catches, 74 yards in week 1. Yet to catch a touchdown, but Trevor Pena has been fairly productive for a Penn State team that needed wide receivers. Murad Watson was the other big spring portal exit. He played quite a bit in their game against San Jose State this week. Had a nice game. 1.5 sacks against San Jose State. He is a second-string defensive tackle, according to their depth chart. So Watson, now at Texas, is cracked the 2 deep and is playing some. Jeonre Reed, remember him, the center, went to USC. He picked them right away in the winter portal time period. And he was outperformed by a walk-on in camp and has not played yet. He is their second-string center. So even though they shelled out some money, it seemed like the big general was going to be their starting center. He is not their starting center right now. Enrique Cruz, another offensive lineman who hit the portal, he is at Kansas. He is starting for them. So that's an example of one working out. We loved Enrique Cruz when he was here, the Syracuse tailgate and all that. Just really wasn't going to crack the rotation. Now he's starting at right tackle for Kansas. So that's one that has worked out. Marcellus Barnes, we will see in a couple weeks. SMU road game on October 4th. Barnes is a second-string corner right now for the Mustangs. 3 tackles in 2 games for him, so less of a role than what he was seeing at Syracuse. Remember Leon Lowry, he is now at Illinois after being at Wisconsin in the NIL deal that was public last year. Lowry's a reserve linebacker for the Illini, has 5 tackles so far on the season. Here's 2 names you probably forgot about. Jeremiah Wilson, now at Florida State after he was a starting corner at a young age for Syracuse. Transferred to Houston, had a nice season at Houston. Big-time get for Florida State. And he is starting for them at one of the corner spots. Steph Thompson, I found out today, is also on Florida State's roster. Stephen Thompson, who was at Nebraska after being at Cuse, former linebacker. He is a backup edge rusher with 3 tackles on the season for FSU. You got the 2 Jersey cornerbacks, defensive backs, who are now at USF, Jaden Bellamy and Jaden Gould. And Bellamy starting at corner. Gould is a reserve safety based on the depth chart. Quarterbacks that we've seen in the backup role. Carlos Del Rio Wilson is now at Marshall. He is still a backup there. Was 2 for 3 throwing the ball against Georgia in garbage time this week. Michael Johnson Jr. is at Akron, where he is the backup quarterback. And David Wollaba went to Virginia. I was surprised to see he is not on their 2 deep. So it does not look like he is going to be playing this year for Virginia, at least as of right now. Don't know if that's injury related, but just looked up Virginia's depth chart. Did not see David Wollaba. Those are your updates on what some guys that left Syracuse are doing in the transfer portal. Some success stories, a whole lot of guys that aren't playing quite as much as what we saw. Fran Brown Show is on Wednesday night, as Kev from Liverpool pointed out in our chat. So we'll have that tomorrow night following our show here on ESPN Radio Syracuse. You can always listen to that on TK99. Moved up a night this week over at Myers Creek in the Inner Harbor. The Fran Brown Show will be Wednesday night for the Friday game. But that'll wrap the show for tonight. Thanks to Giovanni Heater for producing, and we will talk to you tomorrow on Drive Time from 5 to 6 p.m. here on ESPN Radio and QSportsTalk.com.
This is